should they stay the course, or should they really look to blow it up, meaning move one of their core pieces? What do you think?
I think they got to stay the course, especially for us content makers. It'll be fun if they just sort of implode. But I actually think that they're going to do all right. Look at this game. They took this game down to the wire. Steph was not Steph. He was 5 of 17 in this game. They're starting Brandon Podziemski over Andrew Wiggins, who's sitting on the bench right now. But they go down to the wire because they want their stars, their old coach, obviously, and Steve Kerr. They want to make this the last dance. And I think Klay has actually been looking better than he did at the beginning of the season. He dropped 30 in this game. And, yeah, he had a cold night versus Phoenix, the punch and where it happened. But before then, 5 of 8, he had 20 points, the 5 of 8 before that. So I think that this team wants to live. As you said, the Kerr thing, they are calling into Draymond Green to help them to be this last dance. He said, the one who choked Rudy, the one who had a wild flail, the one who punched Jordan last year, that's the guy who needs to change. So they're calling him out, and Curry said the conversations yesterday, he can't keep doing what he's doing. He knows that. We know that. Everybody knows that. I think the tone has changed from any other suspension. So as we talked about with that indefinite suspension, because it is different, maybe it sets a tone with Draymond Green and everybody there to just go for it one last time. This is going to be the last dance if they do it.
This last dance feels like the last dance when the lights came on at the bar. And it's gross.
Last season was the last dance. They said.
Yeah.
They keep going for
You
it.
got faith still. I mean, they're old, they're expensive, and they're bad. They're 10-14 and now 11th in the Western Conference. And we don't know when Draymond Green, of course, is coming back. They're making moves, you're right. Podziemski into the starting lineup. Kuminga, of course, in there with Draymond. Missing time, but in the end they still lose, and it's gonna it feels like Curry's gonna have to do like the old 40-point games here to get them some victories here. But what do you think, Trey? What would you do if you're the Warriors here?
They got to look at trading guys, but blow it up isn't the right phrase because they shouldn't trade Steph Curry. Duh. They can't trade Draymond, who's trading for Draymond at this point right now. The guy's like on a $100 million 3-year contract, and he can't stay on the court on a good team or an allegedly good team. And then the question, I guess, is then Klay Thompson, right? Like, who are they going to get that's better than Klay Thompson? He makes $43 million this year. There aren't a lot of players that make that much money to bring him back. I mean, there are some Bulls trades I was kicking around that they could pull off. I actually don't think that the Warriors would be interested in LaVine, Caruso, and Lonzo for Klay and Chris Paul, but it makes him younger. And I think LaVine has probably surpassed Klay at this point. So I don't know. It just seems like it's going to be tough. But they need a shakeup. I think they should trade Chris Paul, ultimately, is kind of what it comes down to. If they're going to start Brandon Podziemski, a smaller guy, obviously Curry is going to be playing. Moody has been good.
Yep.
They don't need yet another small guard. And maybe trading Chris Paul, he's on what, like a $30 million contract? Perhaps you can find a couple of wings for $15 million. Or convince Wiggins to play basketball well again. That would be huge,
Yeah.
too.
I mean, Klay and Wiggins being the guys that are second and third on the team in minutes and even pretty high when it comes to usage rate. They've just been, for the most part, outside of Klay, who did catch fire last night, I mean, they've been some of their worst rotation players, especially Wiggins, which is like, I saw Hollinger, right? Like, it's sort of inexplicable how this guy has forgotten to play basketball at the age of 28. Like, he's like Klay, you can at least make an excuse for. I mean, he's getting up there in age, all the injuries he's suffered in his career. What, like, outside of like stuff that's happening off the court, which seemed to be an issue last year, maybe it's continued this year. It's like Wiggins has a 7.3 PER, under 48% true shooting percentage. This guy was the second best player on their team that won the title, 2 years ago.
Yep.
So that's tough. And again, I think blow it up here in the lower third there really means the tearing down of the dynasty. And yeah, whether you let just Klay Thompson walk as a free agent or you try and trade him at the deadline in his expiring contract. Same thing with Chris Paul, like you said, TK. Not that he was a part of the dynasty, but yeah, do you take trade calls for Wiggins and Looney and just start over really with Curry and the kids? Do you just try that? Not that it'd be better, but you just, the point is you can't be the most expensive payroll in the league and be 10-14, right? Never a good spot, I would say.
Not great.
No.
Yeah. They should literally be, what is it? I can't even do the math now. Like 14-10 if they just held some of these leads. They've been up really big in some of these games. I just hope that they have a great film crew in there and hope that they try and film The Last Dance and make this a documentary, because I don't see them trading Clay. And because he does have an expiring deal here, this could be the last season that he is there, because somebody will give him a big contract at the end of the year. But Steve Kerr has also said, you old guys that can't play, you're sitting down. Andrew Wiggins, you're sitting down. You are going to be on the bench.
Yeah.
Brandon Podziemski's starting over Andrew Wiggins, which is crazy. I'm definitely worried about Wiggins and what he can become. But at the same time, when Dre comes back, they win this game. If Draymond Green is playing this game, they almost won. And they literally went down to the wire. So they do win this game. So I do think this indefinite suspension will try and just make everybody dance together for one last time here.
But you even
possibly.
think it's going to be quite a suspension. I mean, possibly into the new year. Like, we're looking at another, I don't have the schedule in front of me, 10 to 20 games, I guess, is maybe what you're thinking that he could miss.
I wouldn't think it's that much, but you're right. It's going to be missing a good amount of scheduled games that they're going to
Point is, you
win.
might be too far behind these teams to start, of course, hosting a playoff series.
Yeah, I think this old team that's won so many championships doesn't really care. Just will say, hey, play-in tournament? Try us, buddy. So I think that's what they're going to try and just get to that point.
You still believe in the Warriors.
Why not?
We believe
they did win a championship. Why not get into a play-in tournament team? Are you betting on other play-in tournament teams over this team?
Lakers did exactly this last year. They were terrible the first half of the season. Something wasn't right with the mix. Mm-hmm. They shipped out Westbrook, and they made a run to the play-in tournament, and then they went to the finals, conference finals.
Yeah.
That's what they're hoping for. I mean, that's what the Warriors' plan has to be right now.
Yeah,
but
just hoping to...
The Lakers made moves.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They made moves. They had to.
Did you have any more thoughts on what Kerr sort of said and Steph about the Draymond Green situation, especially UTK? Anything else to add to that as we just sort of wait to see how long he eventually will miss?
I think it is kind of interesting that because Yusuf Nurkic started by saying this guy needs help, now all the Warriors are like, this guy needs help. I heard Chris Vernon making the point on the mismatch. Steve Kerr is saying that the Draymond who punched Jordan Poole, who stomped on Sabonis, who headlocked Rudy Gobert, who punched Yusuf Nurkic, that guy needs to change. And Chris Vernon's saying he's been the same guy since he came into the league. So what is the change going to be? Or is there actually something that's happening off court that has sent Draymond into a little bit of a tailspin here? We haven't really gotten the full story on Wiggins' disappearance last year. So I assume we probably will not again for the Warriors here. But it's just sad, honestly, the way that it's happening with Draymond, because if you're an NBA sicko or if you're a Warriors fan, you'll remember that he was one of the greatest defensive players of his generation, and his mind meld with Curry is what made the Warriors special on both ends of the court. But if you're just an NBA fan or a casual sports fan, the only thing you remember about Draymond Green is all of the incidents. People are just going to think that he was Ron Artest out there when he's actually a Hall of Fame player, but at this point, it's like neck and neck. His basketball skills and his off-court incidents, or on-court incidents, I suppose.
Yeah, I wonder how much these guys in the locker room that have gone to championships with him like him. I can't wait to find out. But looking at last year when he punched Jordan Poole in the face, they did rally around the troops. They did get to the playoffs. They did take the Kings 7 games. It was a fun series. So they could just be looking at each other and say, one last time. Just one last time. Let's do this one last time. And that's what it would be. It would be one last time. Or some might not want to be there. Like Chris Paul was talking to Kawhi Leonard after this game on the court. Kawhi Leonard, very strange move, covering his mouth, but there's a camera on the side of him. So he's covering his mouth, and the camera could literally see everything coming out of his mouth. I'm sure if you really want to read his mouth, you could. So maybe Chris Paul is saying, come on, bring me back. Let me be a point guard. Because he's played all right for the Warriors, although he's older. So I don't know. This is a weird one. But they're also in a horrible conference in that getting into the play-in tournament is hard. You'd rather be in the East because the 7, 8, 9, 10 teams right now, they could propel over and go into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But there's so many good teams in this Western Conference.
It's interesting you bring up the Jordan Poole punch, because a lot of people are thinking the Warriors actually lost a bunch of leverage, or any leverage, in holding Green accountable when they failed really to punish him at all for that. And that has maybe led to this slippery slope of, like, if they had maybe, again, penalized him for punching a teammate, that maybe none of this stuff happens. Who knows? It's impossible to say, but it's sort of a lot of people want to go back to that Jordan Poole incident and say, ooh, you maybe botched it there from the Warriors side of things, from the organizational side of things, in trying to keep the guy sort of a little bit under control. Maybe some truth to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. It's they didn't punish him at all for that, and then they hung it on Jordan Poole being the reason that the season went poorly. I don't think that was the reason, frankly, because the same thing happened with the same guy a year later. So I don't even know what I was saying, but it's just it's frustrating stuff. Like, it's just nonsense from Draymond, to be quite honest. And the way he talks about it too is like out of both sides of his mouth. He's like, I only apologize if I do something on accident. But then he also was like, I didn't realize I choked Rudy Gobert as long as I did.
Yeah.
Did he apologize for choking him too long? No way. No, he was happy to do that. But the other thing is, it's not just the Warriors. After the Rudy Gobert incident, there was a lot of people in media who are like, well, yeah, Rudy came over and touched Klay Thompson. Draymond was just doing the exact same thing. You're not hearing former players sticking up for Draymond right now.
No.